Welcome back to the Brown Ballers podcast. Today, we are very lucky to have with us Arslan Jamil, assistant coach at the Toronto Raptors 905, and also the founder of Goals Over Temptation. So, Arslan, welcome to the pod, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is a long time coming because we haven't seen each other since the pandemic. We've been in touch here and there, but I've been watching your journey from afar. I know you've been seeing all the stuff going on with Brown Ballers and India Rising, and you have such an incredible story in terms of your journey through basketball and your journey through the sports industry. We're so lucky to be able to go through that with you, honestly.
I appreciate that. And shout out to the Brown Ballers. I've been following the growth and, good job to you because I know you're the man behind it. So
I appreciate that, man. So let's get started. Coming to Canada, basketball wasn't number one on your list of priorities. It may not even been number 5 or number 10. Just walk us through coming to Canada, when that was, and what life was like.
So I grew up in Pakistan
Mhm.
up to the age of 15 and then moved here to Canada, Scarborough, Ontario to be exact, with my parents and my sisters. Sports was always a passion of mine. Growing up, I grew up playing cricket. So that was the game. That's the sport. That was my sport. I was actually pretty good at it too. And I tried to pursue it a little bit here at the high school level and this and that. But it was the resources that we have now, even in cricket, were really non-existent back then. And it was just tough. As an immigrant, I'm just like any other immigrant, just went through a tough time, watched my parents struggle, going basement to basement, just having trouble settling in. English was not my first language. I never really spoke it, so I had to learn how to speak. And I'm here in the country at in grade 10. So a lot of kids kind of made fun of me. That's the reality of it. Because when I spoke, so that really affected my self-esteem and confidence and all of those things. I had never really stood up and done presentations. All these things were new to me, but people kind of made me uncomfortable earlier on because I had no friends. So sports has always been that space for me where I felt I don't know, it brought happiness to me, I guess. And one day I just stumbled upon a basketball court at a community center close by where I lived, and I just walked on the court and I thought I can dunk the ball because that's the image that I had of basketball in my mind, I guess. And the crazy thing is I grew up playing cricket on basketball courts back home, but I never once imagined that basketball was going to come in my life. So somehow I bumped onto that court and started picking up the game like that. And then I just found myself there every single day because I had nothing else to do. And that's it. From that point on, it became part of me.
That's incredible. It's the irony, and I totally get that image in South Asia where you're playing cricket on basketball courts. That's just what happens.
Yeah.
So came from Pakistan to Canada, start high school, college. Is there basketball in your life yet, or still no basketball?
At the university level?
Yeah.
So yeah, so basically grade 11, I would say, is where I started playing. So this is the time where the Raptors played the Sixers in the playoffs. This is game 7, Iverson, Vince Carter moment, and we missed the game-winning shot. And then Sixers advanced. So that's when I picked up basketball, really, because I fell in love with Allen Iverson. That's my favorite player of all time. And also at the time, street ball was a big thing. So I used to watch all these and one videos and Hot Sauce and all these guys, and I was trying to copy their moves. So it became a thing from there. So I tried out for my high school team, but I was not good enough. And I went to the high school where Dan Brown played at the time at Westfield Collegiate. He had scored 111 points. So our high school team was very good. And again, I just picked up. I was not anywhere close to be on that level. So went to university at Ryerson, which is called TMU here now. And again, basketball was my everyday thing now. I would play every day, and I'm meeting new people through it and making friends through it. And by that time I was a little bit more adjusted to the society. So now I was more okay, this is starting to feel like home a little bit. And I just tried out for the Ryerson basketball team for fun, to be honest. I didn't.
Fun?
Yeah, it's just for fun. I went to the
But
trials
you like
for fun.
basketball, but you tried it out for fun.
For fun, yeah. And that's literally I just found out about it and I went to try out. Patrick Williams was the head coach at the time. He cut me. And, long story short, later in my life, he became a mentor to me, but he was the first coach to cut me. then I just went along my way. University, I went there for education. That's kind of what the background I came from. My family cared
Mm.
about education, so I pursued that. And then I would go to the tryouts every year just to try out, just for fun. And every year I felt like I got better. And the head coaches changed along the way. So by the time I was graduating from my program at Ryerson, which is in 2007, I think,
Mhm.
happened to make the basketball team as a walk-on. Like, I got lucky a little bit because the recruits that they had coming in that year decided to stay back at school. The coach kind of knew, like, oh, this guy has been coming every year. He got better a little bit. He gave me a chance. He let me be on the team. So that was my first organized basketball experience ever. And I
Wow.
had never been part of any organized sport, even at cricket. Like, even cricket, I played street cricket. So I always wanted that feeling of like being part of a team. That's when I first made it.
That's an incredible journey. Like, it was
Yeah,
just like street and recreational up until that point.
pretty much.
When you got cut, what inspired you to come back the next year then?
Nothing inspired me. I just came back the next year because I knew that, people that I played basketball with, they're going to the tryouts. So sometimes I just made the decision the day of the tryout that, hey, we're gonna go and try out. Like, I didn't prepare for it, to answer your question.
And yeah, and when you were going to school, you were not focused on basketball as a career path. So what were you focused on, or what did you think you were going to do after school?
I think at that time I thought I'm gonna get an engineering job when I graduate,
Yeah.
and that was the plan. But I spent time on the basketball court every single day.
Yeah. And so we're playing basketball in Ryerson. You're playing for the team now at this point.
And well, it was my graduating year.
Okay.
Yeah,
And you're playing for Ryerson. You're playing for TMU.
yeah.
Um, season ends. You graduate. Where do you land up?
I enrolled myself back into school so I can go play another couple years.
So you fell in love with the game, and you were like, "Let me come back to school just to get more basketball reps in."
I wanted to play for the team, so for the only way I could do that is if I'm still a student. So I
Wow.
took more loan from OSAP and decided to go back, and I played another 2 years.
Wow.
And Coach Roy Rana
Yep.
was
Yep.
his first year was my last year at Ryerson, or TMU.
That's really
So
cool.
that's kind of where I stopped. But yeah, I went back to school basically.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you finished up with that. And then did you join an engineering job or?
Yeah, so once I left playing basketball,
Yeah.
I left. So at that time, when I was playing those couple years, I thought that I was crazy in my head. I think you have to be. I thought I'm going to go to Europe and play professionally.
Play pro
So that was
overseas.
kind of my goal. It became my
Uh.
goal once I made the team because you start like dreaming, right?
Yeah.
But I realized that that's not going to happen. So I stopped. So when I stopped, I thought basketball I was done with. And I went into the technical world. My family was going through things and I needed to provide money. So I started working. I found a job fairly quickly. And yeah, I just entered the technical world and just started going from company to company, contract situations. And I still found myself watching basketball and YouTube videos during my breaks. After work, I would just go to the gym, play basketball. So my routine never changed that I had. And what I realized in that process was like, I didn't need a sense of status or be part of something to feel like I need to play basketball. I felt like that passion was still there and I kept playing. But I didn't obviously, I stopped working on my game and things like that. Like things you do as a student athlete, I kind of stopped doing that and I just enjoyed the game for what it was. But I realized that I still loved the game and I didn't need to be on the team because I was kind of heartbroken when I left the team because I didn't leave it. Though I thought I was gonna go somewhere from there and I didn't. So I thought that part was kind of dead. Like I'm never gonna go there again. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Almost
Yeah.
like you left the team, but like the job's not finished.
Yeah, and I thought it will never get there again, and I'm never gonna go back to it again, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
'Cause,
'Cause you can't go back to school
Yeah.
once you're out, you're
Yeah.
out. Okay. And then walk me through finding your path to the Raptors organization once you had graduated.
So from 2010 to 2013, I was working in the technical world, and I
Yeah.
was going company to company, changing jobs, and somehow I stumbled upon MLSC.
Yep.
I had agents that I had relationships with, and they placed me different companies. And one day, Jeanette Lamp, I still remember her. She called me and said, "Hey, we have a 2-week contract at MLSC."
2 weeks?
It was a
What are they
2 weeks
gonna figure
contract.
out in 2 weeks?
What did they want to do?
What do they? Yeah. What do they want to do?
It was like a very simple project that they needed help with.
Yeah.
I didn't even necessarily needed it like a engineering degree for that. You know what I'm
Okay, yeah,
saying?
I got
So,
you. Mhm.
but I went as soon as I heard that, I thought sports. I thought basketball. That's what like um, popped up in my mind. So I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. I had nothing else going. I didn't have a job at the time, so I'm like, yeah, I'll do it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I show up there for 2 weeks. You know, I do my thing, and next thing you know, my manager is like, hey, I think we need to keep you another 2 weeks because we have more work to do. So I'm like, all right, cool. I didn't mind that because I kind of liked being around the Raptors, the Leafs, and you know the things I saw on TV. I'm like in the building. I'm seeing people that, you know what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, this is cool. So as I'm doing all this, they're like 1 more 2 week extension. So they extended me from 2 to 4 to 6 weeks now. So in that time, somebody on the IT staff that I was working with moved on from the job. So a slot became open. So basically, that's how they extended me all the way to the end of the season. And that's
Mm.
how they work, right? So it's to the end of the Leafs Raptor season, which is kind of like
Yeah.
end of June. So my contract had been extended. So I've secured myself like a job for that long,
Yeah.
right? So now all this is going on. Brian Colangelo moves on from the MLS, you know, from the organization, and Masai gets hired, right? So he comes in, and um, that's where, you know, the story changes. So yeah.
And when Masai walks into the building and the culture of the Raptors, like you said, like everything changes. Is that when you flip from the technical side to the basketball side? And how was that opportunity presented your way, or how did you seek it out?
So that's the thing. I didn't seek it out,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm not going to go in too much detail,
Yeah.
but it's very, you know, what I learned from that process is somebody's always watching you. You
Yeah.
know, all that time that I spent as a player, I did so much stuff on my own, alone, thinking that nobody's ever gonna see it. But I feel like all that time that I put in, there's an energy that you carry. We all, as people, work hard in our own way, in our own minds, right? And I think there's an energy that comes from that. And I think that energy you project onto people that you meet. So I crossed paths with Masai in the building.
Yeah.
I was actually the person that had to go upstairs to his office to set up his computer at the time.
You had to set up Masai's
That's the
computer.
first time I met him.
That's the
Yeah,
first time you met Messiah was when you had to go and literally do like IT related work for him.
exactly. And I remember, you know, saying hello to him, and that's how we kind of met. And you know, probably a few weeks from there, or maybe a month or two from there, I think he was in the process of hiring his executive assistant. And he happened to know my IT manager at the time because remember, Masai had worked with the Raptors before. So he had relationships
Yeah.
with people. So my manager knew that I loved the game, I love basketball. And, you know, long story short, again, I got handpicked for the job. And I'm very, very lucky because, again, this is not something I was pursuing. I had no idea.
You didn't even think it was almost in the realm of possibility.
I didn't even think of it.
Yeah. Like, and you mentioned this even before we started like sitting down for today, which was your path, in your words, I think, very untraditional in the sense that there was never a moment in time where you were like, that coaching job, I'm going to get that coaching job. I'm going to do everything I need to do to get that job.
Never.
It was just, things just kind of came up.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible to hear that, especially given the context of this pod and the story and platform around brown identities, you know, to go from, say, IT management to basketball coaching within the same organization. And they're able to handpick you and say, you know, not only is this person able to rise to the opportunity, but like, let's take a chance. Like, that's amazing. It's an
Mhm.
incredible story. So fast forwarding, like I'm sure you work through the ranks, coaching, etc. You're still working on your coaching philosophy. Like I'm curious if you could share a couple of X's and O's around what that looks like now today, 2023, as a veteran coach in the NBA G League.
Yeah, I think that's a process that's under construction,
Yeah.
but I've had the privilege of working with various coaches within the Raptors organization, Jama, Malalela, Patrick Mutombo, Eric Corey, my current head coach, obviously Dwayne Casey era and the Nick Nurse era. I've been
Yeah.
part of that. And Charles Kissy, who's a really good friend of mine, also gave me a big opportunity to grow in the CEBL, which is the Canadian League.
Yep.
So I've learned from all these different leaders, and I also include Masai in this because Masai is a great leader on the front office side. But there's all these guys that I'm talking about have their own styles of doing things. So I think I've taken something from everybody, and I'm trying to figure out who I am. And this summer, I got to be part of this event here in Canada, where I got to head coach a team for the weekend. So I had to come up with my own philosophy and all those things. And what I've learned is I know that if I'm out there and there's a team that plays with me or plays for me, they're going to definitely represent these three things. One is effort. Two is team basketball, and three is compete. And when I think of those things, I think of me as a player. I think that's who I was. I put a lot of work in. I made sure it's not. I'm able to work with everybody. I care about other people and how they feel and how they're living. And when it's time to play, we try to win. That's what I'm driven by, I think.
And this is more of a general question, but when you're out there coaching, whether it's NBA G League or CBL or any ranks, like how do you inspire confidence and respect from players? Like, does that look different on a player to player basis, or like what does that kind of relationship building look like?
Yeah, I think that's a question that has like I think a very long answer it
Yeah.
feels. And I think to your point, it changes from person to person. Each person you have to deal with differently. And me as a coach, I'm growing in that area as to like how do I you can't be the same with everybody. I
Mm-hmm.
think as coaches sometimes we make a mistake that they have to do it our way. Sometimes we have to kind of have a good emotional IQ for how everybody else operates. Um, but I don't try to uh, naturally I don't try to like um pursue a relationship. I let it organically build.
Yeah.
I'm not going to just go have lunch with you so I can get you to do
Do
something.
something.
I'm not built like that.
No. Do
So
you think a lot of coaches are?
I
Or
feel
that's kind of how the game is played?
I feel like it exists out there, but everybody maybe they feel strong about what they do, and I totally respect that. But for me, I feel it takes time to really build trust and respect. And I think when players see that you're a genuine person, even people that you work with see that, and and you're consistent in that, I think you can gain respect from that over time, and then from there you can kind of create, I guess, motivation and those kind of things.
Yeah.
And you can have tougher conversations with people too because of that, because they
Mhm.
trust you. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Yeah.
When it comes to coaching, especially in the NBA G League, the NBA is experimental league. Like they test a lot of rules in there. They test maybe new technology sometimes. I'm curious, like, has that been your experience? Like when it comes to sports tech, like do you use that a lot as part of the coaching process? Does the organization use that often or not so much?
No, I've seen
Yeah.
it progress in the last 10 years I've been with the organization. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen different tracking equipment come in, cameras, and even the way the G League is, like have seen the NBA experiment so many different things that maybe will transfer over to
Yeah.
the NBA. So I feel like there's a wide variety of technical and basketball, experiments that I've been a part of.
Yeah. Is there one that stands out to you that you like enjoyed or thought was very like valuable? Or I know there's like one free throw for 2 points, for
Yeah,
example, and
yeah.
stuff like that. Like I'm curious if there's one that stands out
Um,
to you. Maybe
I like the Elam ending.
you like Elam ending
Yeah, I like that. I know they have experimented that in the G League with the overtime. When we go
overtime.
into
Yeah.
overtime, it's to seven, I think, seven dead.
Yep.
And in the CBL, every game is Elam ending.
Every single game in the regular season. Yep.
And I love Elam. I like watching basketball in Elam ending.
Do you like coaching in the Elam ending too?
Hell yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And even the TBT,
TBT
you
for
guys playing, like, I love those kind of games. I love it.
Elam ending is pretty great.
Yeah.
I have
If
to
it's a
say,
close game, it's fun.
it's yeah, it's like it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's definitely like a more exciting way to end a fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Um, I think it remains to be seen whether we see that implementation in the league because it'd be
Yeah.
changing like the history of the game in so many ways. But
Yeah.
man, it's exciting. It's good to
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah. They did do it at the All-Star game, so
Yeah.
it's fun, man. Every game there's one game winner, right?
Yeah.
Somebody has to close the game with something and it's a celebration.
It's oh yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious when it comes to coaching now, the past say 5, 10 years, like which players, not names, but like which because you were a guard yourself, do you feel like you coach or relate to guards differently than when you're coaching wings and bigs, or is there any difference there? Like, how does your personal playing experience as an elite player translate to coaching?
Um, I think naturally at the beginning, I felt guards is where I'm going to um, be stronger because you can feel some of the things they talk about. And
Mhm.
it's important that you have played at some level. You have to know what it feels like to come off the ball screen and somebody's pressuring you. Because players they know more than we think they know.
Yeah.
They're out there. They bring up some really good points in film sessions, and I learned from that. But what I've learned is like as I've coached over the years, because you watch so much film, you start to learn the other positions that you thought you're never gonna learn. So film is like, where you really gain that extra knowledge of each position. So I feel like, yeah, maybe I'm a little bit stronger maybe on the guard side, but it kind of works everywhere.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, when you were playing, because I think this is important to highlight, like you had a very successful like, playing career. Um, your height as a guard is
5'7"
5'7",
on a good
and I
day.
feel like a lot of people self disqualify themselves.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, I don't know if that's been your experience in coaching. Sometimes people are like, oh, like I have to stop basketball because I'm not tall enough. Like that's never stopped you.
Yeah, it's weird, man. I don't know. Maybe I should have stopped. Sometimes I think about it because I've met people that were like, "Yo, like you're doing this," like, and they stopped a while back, right? And they were okay with that. For me, I just couldn't stop. I don't know, man. Like I just wanted to keep getting better. I just enjoyed that. I didn't care how big I am, like. But I know people look at me that way. As a player, they did, and I think it affected me. And even in coaching, I feel like I deal with it. But in coaching, it doesn't matter as much. But like people still look at you and say, "Okay, what have you done with basketball?" You said I had a successful basketball career. I didn't. I didn't play a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't score a lot of
Yeah.
points. I was actually not that good
Yeah.
because organized basketball is really hard when you have
Yeah.
never done it. I was around kids that were playing all their life, and
Yeah.
here I am running the point guard position, and I barely know what the coach is asking me to do, and I'm turning the ball over because you have to have experience. I had no game experience. But what I'll say is that I guess like me working hard and like going after, like just enjoying the game took me to that place where a lot of people can't get to because it's still a pretty big deal to a lot of people to make teams as a walk on and have no game experience and have no
Mhm.
high school experience and be this small as me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And no coaching really. I kind of like met people along the way, but I really taught myself, and I taught myself probably a lot of the wrong things.
So you taught yourself at 10th grade onwards, right? So it's pretty late.
Everything that
Yeah,
I saw,
super
I
late.
just took it and watched on TV, whatever. I just tried to
Yeah,
copy it.
like YouTube
Yeah,
AI.
yeah, yeah.
So,
So
why do you think you fell in love with basketball? Because it may not have been like it's so late in your childhood. Like, what drew you to AI and stuff?
I don't know, the headbands, I don't know, the wristbands. Like I don't know, I found it cool, and because I was going to the court every day, I don't know, man. It's just weird. Like I just love sports, man. Like I play cricket, tennis, soccer, any sport with the
Hmm.
same mentality that I'm trying to. I think my thing is that maybe in basketball, I felt like I had to prove people wrong very early on, and I think that I'm the type of person that is gonna keep going because I think I can prove you wrong.
You like that.
Yeah. So
You
I
like the
haven't.
underdog.
Yeah, I
You
like.
thrive off being the
Yeah,
underdog.
yeah, yeah. I
S-
think so. I
Okay.
think that's what it is.
So then let's switch gears from the NBA side to your business. Goals
Yeah.
over temptations. What is that? And what are you building?
Um, so goals over temptation. So I used to like randomly write stuff on my basketball or my books back in the day at my time at TMU Ryerson, and I would be in the library just making up random things, to motivate myself. So I had academic goals at the times where I'm trying to get a certain GPA, but I was playing basketball at the same time. Um, so one day I was just in the library and I kind of wrote out goals over temptations and I put G.O.T on my book.
Yeah.
Then it ended up on my basketball. And, from there, a couple of my friends saw it and they're like, yo, this is cool, But that was like really my message to myself. Like I was trying to, I guess, not get distracted. And that was my way of like locking back in. You know what I mean? So my friends saw it kind of like they told me about it, like, yo, this is kind of cool. And then it just stuck with me and it stuck with me. This is back in 2003 when I wrote it.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah. And then over time, like it kind of became like yo, this is who I am. I am GOT. Like I represent that message, you know.
Yeah.
And now wherever it takes me, it takes me. I'm not trying to make it into something, but if I ever have to negotiate a deal one day, I'm going to find a way to negotiate some money for my brand. You know
Get
what
it.
I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's how,
license that out a
yeah,
little
but I'm
bit.
not trying to do, I thought about making it a clothing line and making this and making it
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but it's really hard to build your brand. Like what you did with India Rising, I know it's very, very hard to do. But you know, so I don't approach it that way. If I'm able to, wherever I go, it stays with me.
Mm,
That's how I see it.
that's strong.
Yeah,
It's a really strong, and it's a really strong message.
yeah,
Resonates with me deeply for sure.
yeah.
You know, so goals over temptation is one thing. There's also Giants of Africa. That's another
Mm-hmm.
big, I guess, part of your journey to date.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for those who might not be aware of it, like what is it? You were in Africa a
Yeah,
couple weeks ago. Like,
yeah.
what were you up to?
Yeah, so Giants of Africa is a nonprofit organization which uses basketball as a tool to give back to the youth in Africa. And they started in 2003 and they just celebrated 20 years.
Hmm.
Um, and they did that with like a, you know, festival. It was amazing. They had an open ceremony. They had, you know, entertainment attached with basketball, which is what Africa really is. You know, it's music
Yeah.
and there's a lot of talent there, and all these years they have done camps from many different countries. Like I joined uh, their staff in Africa in 2000, I think 16, and this is when I was still in the front office with the Raptors. Um, that was the first time where I was at a camp and one of the teams, it was just like a game going on. One of the team's coach, I think, happened to step away for some reason. And the girls were huddling up, but they didn't have a coach. So I just stepped in and I kind of started coaching. That was the first time where I'm like, if I do something else in basketball, because at that time I was trying to figure out which path do I go? Is it
Hmm.
scouting? Is it this? Is it that? And I couldn't relate to anything but like the court. I needed to be on the court because that's the only thing that goes back to me as a player. So that's like Giants of Africa changes people's lives, but I think it changed my
Mm,
thinking as well at the time. And that's where I'm like, yo, if anybody ever asks me or if I get to tell somebody what I want to do, I'm going to tell them I want to go towards this.
yeah.
And then from that year on, like I was basically coaching. I went there as like, you know, for operations part of it, but I ended up becoming on court a lot more. And every single year from that point on, I was a coach. And then boom, Raptors 905 coaching thing happens and this and that. And now I go there as a coach. I don't go there as anything else. And it's probably you know, one of the best experiences of my life, just being able to like, and the other thing is this sport has done so much for me than I have done for the sport itself. You know, like I've traveled so to so many places because of basketball. You
Mm.
know, within Canada, you know, with the state in the States, Africa, I've been to like at least 8 to 10 different countries, and other places. You know, like, and it's incredible. Like as a kid, I always thought that I'm gonna travel, but I just didn't know how. You know what I'm saying? And it happened to be sports, which is crazy.
No, I mean, Giants of Africa is an incredible
Yeah,
organization. What Masai has built and the
yeah,
impact socially and in terms of basketball
yeah,
and connecting it to BWB and everything
yeah,
like that. It's amazing.
yeah.
I'm curious if you're involved at all with like grassroots basketball development in Pakistan, or is that not an opportunity really you've had come across your door yet?
Um, that's a good question because every time I visit Pakistan for the last couple times I've gone, I've tried to connect with basketball people there. So they do have um, infrastructure as far as like basketball courts. I don't think they invest much in basketball yet,
Yeah,
but they do have people that are trying to do things out of their pocket, and you
nice,
know,
nice.
so I'm trying to figure that out. I'm trying to, you know, one of my goals is to actually do a camp there and see,
Yeah.
you know, what that breeds from there. But
Which city in Pakistan are you from?
I'm from Rawalpindi,
Okay, yeah,
to be exact. Yeah,
yeah,
that's where I'm
okay,
from.
cool.
Yeah, so
So, run a camp in Pakistan. That's one of your life goals in the
yeah.
future. At whatever time that happens,
Yeah, exactly. There's no
it'll
timeline to
happen.
it, but I
Yeah.
have a couple people here in Toronto that are very passionate about that idea and are
Hmm.
trying to figure it out. And we're trying to connect with the right people. So I think in the
We need
near
to
future,
find them to bring that to life.
exactly,
Yeah.
because they're, you know, very territorial over, you know, in these kind
Yeah.
of places. You have to make sure everybody is on the same
Yeah.
page.
Big stakeholder management exercise. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, for sure. It always is. Anything Anything in South Asia, you just gotta
Yeah,
gotta make sure everyone's all right.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, so that's super cool because my follow up then was like if there were any similarities between, say, Pakistani basketball and other things you've seen, whether it's in Africa or the U.S. or Canada. But maybe that's a question we can answer later on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
because
they got a lot of work to do.
we're still in the infancy stages
Yeah.
there. Fair enough, makes sense. Um, you said that you are someone who loves sports in general.
Mhm.
Like cricket is what you grew up playing. Um, you still don't have a reason why it was basketball, not soccer, for example, right?
No, I don't know.
Don't know,
I
huh?
don't know. I just
Just
take it
happened.
one day at a time, even now.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think basketball will never leave me.
Mm.
I can go and sell hoodies out of my trunk
Yeah.
and I'll still be on the court somehow. I find myself on the court. I was telling one of our staff members in Africa, like, we were putting a kid through a workout in the morning and I'm like, man, I don't know what it is, but I always end up on a basketball court,
Mm.
like every day or every other day. Like it just keeps happening. So if basketball is not my thing down the road, in terms of like maybe like I guess my career or whatever you want to call it, it's never gonna leave me. I just stick to basketball. Whatever it brings is like a bonus.
Yeah.
That's how I
That's very
operate.
strong.
Yeah.
So coaching in the NBA G League, like then in the future, next say 2 to 5 years, we're not trying to predict, but like where would you like to see things go? Where would you like to take your career?
Um,
Or what would you like to be doing in the game of basketball in 2 to 5 years?
I would like to head coach
Mm-hmm.
at some level at some point.
Yep.
I'm open to all opportunities really,
Yeah.
but I would like to see myself in that space because I like that pressure.
You like that
I like
pressure.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone that likes being an underdog, you like the pressure.
Yeah.
You really like being on edge.
Yeah, I like it when people depend on me. I feel like what I've learned, and this is with like last year, I learned because last year I got to do some more. I was responsible for some more, I guess, tasks that I had never done before in the G League, and I learned from that when people, when I have to go walk in the room and I have to prepare my team or people that
Mhm,
I'm working
mhm.
with for what we're about to go do, the preparation that goes into that, I'm really locked into that.
Yeah,
If you let me float, then I'm gonna float. But if you put pressure on me where people are dependent on me, then I have to make sure they're ready. If I'm putting together an event and everybody's depending on how I put it together, I'm going to give you my best.
yeah.
But if I'm just like a fly on the wall that's just helping out, I may not give you my best
Mhm.
self. You know what I'm saying? So I think that pressure of head coach is that like you have to make sure everybody's on the same page, everybody's prepared, all the details are taken care of. And I think I would like to see myself and see what that is like. Maybe I won't like it after I do it, but
Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's fair.
yeah.
As you've been in the coaching game for a long time, as you see more and more players come in and younger guys, do you find that getting them prepared is harder than say it was in 2016? And the logic or the thought behind that question is we've been talking on this pod and a couple other episodes about like attention spans decreasing with like younger people or like reliance on smartphones and things like that. Like I'm just curious, like, is the way you coach for anyone, is that starting to change a little bit based on just the types of players coming in, or is the art of coaching the same for the past 5, 10 years you've been involved?
I think it changes with people.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. They
Yeah.
have different ideas. Um, but like somebody in my network once told me, and it stuck with me. He said, "Arslan, it doesn't matter what job you do in this world, you have to be able to manage people, right?"
Mhm.
So I think if the newer generation that's coming in, you have to be able to relate with them. And if you can't do that, then it doesn't matter what you know what I'm
It
saying?
doesn't
Like,
matter what you're saying.
yeah, so you can't, like, if I'm putting you through a basketball workout, it may
Yeah.
not be the same as Sam,
Yeah.
you know? I
Sam is
can't,
in better shape.
yeah, exactly. I may have to go lighter with you. I don't
Yeah.
know. I may
Yeah.
have to do the layup package different.
Yeah.
I can't do the same thing I do with you with him. So you
Yeah.
have to adjust, right? I think the same goes with preparing people. Like you
Yeah.
have to know how to customize your plan. If your players are shooters, you can't force them to drive. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So you got to look at your team and see how they like to learn and evolve accordingly. And if they like texting, then you got to figure out how to use texting. Like you got to figure, and you also got to teach them what you know, because from our generation, we didn't have all that. I still remember when I had to run home and I would find out like my friend called. Because
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm from
yeah,
that time, but at the same time,
yeah,
I'm from this time where everybody texts and they don't like
yeah.
having real face-to-face conversations. But you can't look at that as a negative thing. You have to figure out how to adjust because that's what they know. It's not their fault. So
Mhm.
how do you, teach them some of the other things that you know, but at the same time adjust? And I think as that's what I've learned. Like I always think about this, right? Like the old generation is stuck in their ways,
Yeah?
right? Like whatever it is, like the family standards or family protocols people have, like
Yeah.
like uh basketball wise too, people are stuck in the old generation too, right? But I think you have to know what the next generation is going through and you have to find that bridge,
Yeah, you
because
have to
yeah,
find the
in basketball
bridge.
you're always going to
Yeah.
work with younger, all the
Yeah.
young talent is, before 23,
Yeah.
24. Like at this pro level, that's where the best players are.
Yeah.
Every year they come, there's like some new app out and you have no idea what the hell's
Yeah.
going on, so you
So
got
you
to
have to
figure it
download the
out.
app and just chat.
Yeah, you got to figure it out.
You know, you talked about, like, um, relating to people in bridges. So, you're a first-gen immigrant from Pakistan.
Yeah.
Your parents probably not thinking about basketball. When you pursued it as a career, was that an easy conversation or was that like maybe a source of like contention, and how did you navigate that? Cuz I think it's important for people to hear these stories about, like, if you want to do something that your parents don't necessarily know about, like, you can still get it done, or like that might be okay. I'm just curious what your experience with that has been.
Yeah, I mean, my parents will be the first to say that didn't believe in anything I told them. When I was playing for, my university team, they used to tell me that you're wasting your time. They know that. Um, but I didn't listen to them either. When I went back to enroll back into school,
Mm,
you think they would be okay
no.
with that? No,
No
like a
way.
lot, not just them, even my peers. They're like, "What are you
What are
doing?"
you doing?
So that told me that, yo, you guys don't even believe in what I want, like, because at the time I thought, okay, I'm gonna spend a couple more years and maybe become better, but um, yeah, so they were against the whole idea of taking it seriously too, which I didn't listen to, and then when I ended up becoming, like ending when I ended up in the basketball world, they were like, "Oh shoot, like this became his job," and then from that point on, they just became my fans. So their whole idea of like, "Oh, Arslan's got to
And
do
now
this,"
they're your fans, you're saying.
yeah, they
Yeah.
support me now. They never question anything. They just let me do what I do, and it's good to have that support.
Well, when someone is trailblazing or trying to be a pioneer, usually it's like a bunch of haters around, like you're saying, whether it's peers, family, whoever. But maybe there's sometimes that one ground source of truth or that one supporter that helps them if it's not their own inner voice. Was there someone or something in your life that was the ally that helped you get through all those hurdles, or was that your inner voice?
I think it was mainly my inner voice, but some of my best friends, some of the coaches and trainers that continued to work with me always made me, feel optimistic about everything.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I had that, but I think it all came from inside me at the end of the day.
So where do you think your sense of self belief comes from?
So see, this is a thing, man. Like, I have trouble with this in this part of like, like I feel like we live in this world where everybody has to have what they want. They have to know what they want. I don't think I ever knew what I wanted, really. I think I've struggled with that. Even going to university, I didn't know that I wanted to do engineering. I just followed my friends. They were going into engineering, so I went into engineering. Then I realized that this is not something I like. Then I ended up in the technical world, and I see all these people taking courses and things like that, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, it's not something I want to do. So I think you have to enjoy your life. You have to find a way to enjoy your life. And your life is really your career. That's how I look at, everything. So if you enjoy your life, and it's not easy to live your life and get paid for it, but
Yeah.
I think whatever it is that makes you happy, how can you turn that into a strength of yours that can hopefully, provide you money in this world where you need that to survive? That's kind of how I approach everything, and I just follow what I would want to do if I'm just, like if I have a day off, what would I do that day? Like, even if I had enough money to not go work anymore, what am I going to do?
That yeah. Well,
I'm gonna wake up.
what's your answer?
I'm gonna hopefully have my breakfast. One dream I have is I want to have a chef one day.
Okay.
Hopefully I can make that happen.
Okay.
Um, I'd probably go work out, or or maybe watch a basketball game. Like I'll do things that or maybe go. You know what I'm saying? Like how can you achieve those things? Because that's how I enjoy my life. Like being on the basketball court every day. Like you take away all the work stuff and all the, because sometimes it does feel like work. I'm not gonna lie,
It
right?
must. I mean,
It
it has
does,
to.
but the same thing happens, when you get married and you go through things, um, family and all that. What I've learned, and this is why I love working with young kids, because kids are real people. They tell you how it is. There's no games. You get to a certain age, and all these adults, they start complicating things, because one person didn't like that she didn't text him back, or one person like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like we create all these issues, and then it just gets more political and complicated from there. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what I was answering,
No, but that's a good answer to
but
whatever
yeah,
random question I sent, though.
yeah. So why I do it, I still don't know, man. I just
Mm,
maybe one day I'll be like, I'm done, but I haven't gotten there yet.
lose around the self belief.
Yeah,
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
but I
So
do feel like I have this person inside me that lets me know that I belong. Doesn't matter where I am. I have this thing, and I don't know what it is. I feel like I belong.
okay, related to that, before we wrap, there was somebody that told me, with India Rising and Brown Ballers, like, why are you doing this work? It was a friend's dad, just like at a dinner party. He's like, why are you doing all this stuff? Like, who do you need to prove to anyone that brown people are good at sports or can do this XYZ thing?
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to do that. The real solution to all this feeling less than is just fixing your inner voice. If you go on a court and say, okay, pick me last, pick me first for this pickup game, they don't need to know brown people are good at basketball. Like, I just know I'm good. That's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was like, I actually don't have a rebuttal to that. I think that's like so valid.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, this India Rising team, like it's cool, but like you don't actually have to prove anything to anyone. You should find something else to stand for, because it's not really about like winning games and being like, hey, you, guess what? Look at the box score. Like, look at what we did. Now think of us differently. Like
Don't have to do that.
you can just actually turn that on in
You don't
yourself.
have to do that. The way I see it is we're trying to do something on this side of the world where our generations came later. Give it some more time. All these kids are growing up with the Andrew Wiggins and the RJ Barretts and the Shake. You know what I'm saying? They're growing up. Guess what? They're going to join the basketball teams earlier on, and it's going to happen anyways.
Yeah.
It's going to happen anyways. But what you're doing is letting somebody in India, you know, take it more seriously, because somebody's going to make it from there very soon too.
Yeah.
That's going to go from there to the big leagues here. It's going to happen. I believe that. I
Yeah.
strongly believe that, because this is just how things work. If Steve Nash can get 2-time MVP, you're telling me nobody else can do it?
Yeah.
That's enough for me to know that I can make it happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I see it. So I
Yeah.
know somebody's going to do it. Obviously, you need the right coaching and all those things along the way. And hopefully that's getting better. I know they have the NBA Academy over there. Like over
Mhm.
time, it's gonna get better. Even with Giants of Africa, I've been there five straight years, and I see the difference in the way the players are now compared to 5 years ago. There's better coaching, there's better everything. It's just growing because the game is on YouTube now. It's everywhere. Kids are looking, learning themselves, and they're watching all these things. And they're watching Steph Curry shoot, and they're copying that. You're gonna get like good players from all these other places where basketball is not big. You know what I mean? So um, it's gonna happen. But what you're doing is great at the same time. Um, it's kind of sets the example, because it's gonna get bigger and bigger, and somebody else will probably do even bigger. But at least you have the courage to do it. Like I really, really highly respect what you're doing, because I know it's very, very hard to do.
Oh, I appreciate
Because
that,
it's easy
man.
for everybody to walk into the event and have food and doing this and that. To put that event together or to put that thing together, it takes a lot of um, sacrifice, and no gains really sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's like not a money thing. It's
Exactly.
not a financial thing, and it's
Exactly.
not really yeah, no, you're right. No, it's a lot of
Yeah.
sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's been a good rewarding journey, but yeah, like
Yeah.
totally, man. So before we because you were talking about Shea and Jamal, any thoughts on the USA Canada game today or not so much?
No comment. I didn't really get to watch it, so
Okay, fair
yeah.
enough, fair enough.
But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know,
It
I
was super
know.
early. It was like 4 a.m. or something here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's good to see though that the team has gotten better, right? Because
yeah,
like being on the Canadian side, you've always seen like us not having. There's always like something, like this better resources or whatever. Like
yeah,
Canada is always dealing with that. Like the universities here, you don't necessarily get the best players because they're going over to the states, and you're starting to see that there's growth here too. Just like we want growth out in South Asia and all these
yeah.
other places, there's growth here too, and I think it just continues to grow. Like I was just with my boys yesterday. One of my boys was a top 25 player back in the day who I met through basketball, and they were just talking about that. Like that was all they had, and they got shoes, and it was a big deal. But now they have all these kids doing all this crazy stuff, and there's more NBA players here. Like so it's going to continue to grow. Somebody's going to take that initiative to create India rising and all these things. Somebody's going to do it, and then it's going to grow and grow, and it's just going to get better around the world. Like it's going to keep growing. We may not get to see that, but it's going to
We
get
may not.
it's just what it is. I wish I could live forever.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why, like, I have trouble with the idea that, I hate to say it like this, but I hate the idea of like life not being there one day. That's why, like, I don't want to focus so much of my energy on, oh, I gotta do this today and not do this today so I can do this tomorrow. But I don't know if I'm gonna be alive tomorrow.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So whatever I do today could be my last. I don't know that. If I had known that, maybe I would have a better plan for everything. You know what I'm saying? But obviously you care about your family and you want to do good. And if another person can make $1 billion, why can't you make it? Like, we can have, why can't this, it's been done by somebody else. You can do it too. Yeah, some people have it easier, but it is what it is. Like, anything can happen, people are watching.
That's strong.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I want to say thank you for coming on the Brown Ballers Pod, sharing your incredible story, all these nuggets of wisdom with us. It means a lot. And hopefully we don't take, 4 years to come across each other's paths again and we meet up again soon, man. But thank you, Arsalan, for taking the time to be with us today. Any parting thoughts for anyone listening in before we close this off?
For all the kids that get to see this, I can look in the camera
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
My only message for you is take care of your family, and whatever work you do it for yourself. Don't take shortcuts, because at the end of the day, you only affect yourself down the road. You're not doing this for me. You're not doing this for your coach. You're not doing this for anybody. You're doing it for yourself. So do it with good honesty. And like I said before, somebody's watching.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.